Alrighty, folks, it is one thing to track the 10-year, which is sub 3.9 today. It is another thing to understand what the spread has historically or is currently historically 1.8 or 180 basis points. Today, about 285-ish. But it is a completely another thing to talk to people that are in the business, taking the phone calls, creating the files, and doing the work. We're going to talk to the boys from Convoy Home Loans to talk about all of the crazy, and I do say crazy rates they have quoted this week. Dustin and Jonathan, how you guys doing?
Good, good.
Awesome. Jonathan, who's going to go first? Who's going to talk about a rate or a deal that you quoted this week?
I can start. I'll start because I love talking about this product. Nobody else really talks about it, but I always present it to my clients as an option, especially right now in this market, because if you remember a few videos back, I think a few months ago, when rates started kind of doing a little bit of a teeter-totter, we were like, hey, because the Feds are probably not going to raise rates for the rest of the year and are probably not going to be increasing rates next year, there's a great opportunity to get a 6-month ARM at a low rate to be able to capitalize on the low rates and maximize cash flow during this time period. Back then, we were talking about like 6.25, right? Now, yesterday, I actually quoted a client 5.625 with 20% down on a 2-unit.
All right, so let me ask some questions because my audience will obviously know that I recoil when I hear the word ARMs, given my PTSD from 20 years ago. I will admit that you did bring this up. And if I recall the conversation about the 6-month ARMs, they had a cap on them, right? So you were basically good for the first 6, you were meaning below market. The first bump in it would still keep you kind of at market. And then the next 6 months was there was basically a cap in this product. Do I remember it correctly, or am I
correct? Yeah.
confused?
So the index is the SOFR, and the cap is a 215, meaning the maximum that it can increase the first time is 2%. And then every time after that, every 6 months after that would be 1% for a lifetime cap of 5% from the starting rate. The reason this makes so much sense though right now in this market is because this is a market where we know for a fact rates are not going to be shooting back up where they used to, where they were the last year, right? So it's an opportunity to kind of maintain a very low rate until you can lock something in at an even lower rate or around the same range, right? But maximize on the cash flow today. So like this is that rare opportunity again that we kind of talked about where we kind of know where the Fed's going, right? We know it's not going to shoot up. So if it stays the same, you're going to maintain your 5.6. Right? Okay. If it goes up slightly, you might be at 6.6, but you're still lower than the rest of the market because in order for the full 2% to be hit, the market has to adjust up. The SOFR has to adjust up more than 2%.
Got it.
So it's actually a very safe product right now for at least the next year and a half, maybe. I think.
So let me ask you this, Jonathan, and I think you said it there, but I just want to call it out because you know how I feel about ARMs in general. This is a product you would buy or leverage, I should say, leverage kind of with a short-term plan being 2 or 3 years or less. You wouldn't want to keep this for the full 30 years because who knows what things will be in 5 years.
Absolutely not. Yeah, this is definitely a great product to be able to purchase right now when everyone else is like even mid 6, high 6, 7, right? That's the conventional rate. You can get down to 5.6, you buy it at a 5.6, and then you watch the market, right? And once you see the market, and you're going to be talking to me or Dustin, and we're going to be keeping you in the loop. But if the rates hit on a 30-year note on an investment property at 6% or lower, right, on a conventional or something, then we're refinancing out immediately into a 30-year fix.
But I approve that. I like it.
But in that 1 year period, 6 months or 12 months, however long you have it, because there is no prepay, you have the opportunity to maximize cash flow at that time and be able to buy a property and get a good deal on it.
Yeah, the no prepay is a big deal in that. I may have missed that last time, so that's a big deal. Again, I don't know this is something that I would jump on, but hey, there are lots of investors in lots of places doing lots of things. It is an option you should at least consider, and the boys from Convoy will bring that up with you. All right, Dustin, how about you? What's one of the crazy rates that you actually quoted this week?
So we've been doing a a lot of, so this will be targeting more so your home buyer, owner occupied, borrower, not investors, but we have FHA streamlines and VA EARLs, which is essentially for the audience a way to refi out of a higher rate into a lower rate with no appraisal needed, very minimal closing costs. A lot of times the closing costs are less than like one monthly payment, like your new monthly mortgage payment. And these can be done a lot of times in 5-7 days because there's no appraisal, there's no income checking, right? So these government loans are starting to come back, and you'll see a lot of advertising from your Quicken and Rocket and etc. Or Loan Depot, pardon me. Quicken, Rocket's same, obviously. But what they don't advertise is the fact that when we were comparing, I had a client, or me and John actually had like 3 different clients that all got quotes from a company called Freedom Financial that is similar to, those that don't know, like a very big nationwide, over 2,000 loan officers, etc., that quoted our clients at 5.75 on an FHA streamline. Same thing we just discussed. But their overhead still is significantly more than people like Convoy or Matt the Mortgage Guy that don't have the stadiums, the commercials, the everything. So you still
That
need
adds
to shop them.
costs. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you still need to shop, even if you're getting a government loan. We still may be all getting our milk from the same cow, but they still have to pay for that stadium. They still have to pay for that TV commercial, where
You're right.
it may not sound like a lot, but 0.3 for somebody that's sitting on the sidelines for the last year and a half is a big difference. So that's something that, just saying low 5s right now is mind boggling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to really highlight this, right? If because I heard about FHA Streamline, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were talking 599 at that time. Obviously, this was pre the big dip, and I thought 599 was crazy. Now, because of the big dip, we're down another roughly 75 basis points at 5.25. The refi demand for FHA and VA buyers, given that there's no appraisal, 10 business days or less, the total fees are less than a payment. And I'm guessing you probably can bake most of that into the debt. I'm guessing. I have no idea how this stuff works, but it sounds possible. There's a lot of people that should do this. But folks, don't get suckered into these big engines with big overhead that got to pay for that shit somehow, some way. I bring you guys that have low overhead, that are investing you, that have entire playlists that are years long. Get a comparative quote. Reach out to the boys from Convoy. We're going to keep going, but just because it feels like a good time to insert this, where should they go if they're thinking about a streamline or want to start a streamline with you guys? Where do we send them?
Go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from where we're at.
All right. Hopefully we can talk about 2 other crazy quotes you did this week. We'll go back to you, Jonathan. What is another crazy interest rate that you got a client this week?
So, 5 to 8 units, I've been getting a little more traction, and now we can go up to 10 on the same product. But recently, before I would say like a month ago, we were talking about like mid to high 8s and 30-year fixed, which is not crazy for these bigger, like smaller balance commercial loans. But we are now actually yesterday, we just closed one that was a 5 unit at 8%. With 30% down.
And that's fixed for 30 years.
30-year fixed.
And folks, if you don't know why that's important, historically speaking, once you get to that 5th unit, you are in commercial paper. You're doing 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, sometimes 10. We're talking about a 30-year product here. So very, very different.
And it was amazing because obviously Fannie Freddie right now, obviously the rates are down. If you're going full commercial, it's like, mid 6s or whatnot. But that's an ARM. And for smaller balance multifamily, which is under $1 million typically, like the demand and the loan products that the banks and the lenders will actually give you is probably not going to be in that mid 6 range. You're going to be probably in like the high 7s to 8. And also, you're probably not going to be able to put down 30% because there's a lot of other factors that go into it, like vacancy reserve, CapEx, OpEx. So the ability for us to be able to offer 30% down and then close at an 8% for a 5 unit is kind of huge.
Yeah, it's very,
There's
very
not
different.
that much
Yep.
with the rest of the market, and you just have to cash flow at 115%. And without the, the BS CapEx, OpEx, all that extra stuff that happens. And so
Mhm.
you can calculate the biggest value add for this is, yes, the rate's a little higher, but you can calculate at least what your return will be, what your ROI will be over the next however many years until you refinance.
Yeah, I
So
like it. I like it.
yeah, so that's been really hot recently that I wanted to kind of put out there.
All right. Well, we'll give you one more shot. Dustin, what's another crazy rate that you quoted this week? And we'll wrap up this great episode.
So we, as we've discussed in the last week or 2 weeks videos now, we can get rates as low as 6.25, 6.25 on a DSCR 1 to 4 units. So
No,
a
no,
lot of
no, no.
people
Say
aren't
that
getting
again.
there.
DSCR loans at 6.25.
Yeah, right now we can get as low as, that's the lowest now. You got
Yeah,
to have
yeah.
the perfect credit, all that. So I had one client that fit the 6.25 bucket. And the reason being is because he bought a property all cash that we were actually doing the financing on about 2 months ago. We
Mm,
were getting him around 770. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy it all cash. It was like a $1.2 million property,
good for him.
actually in Bend, Oregon.
Oh, wow.
And I let him know, hey, look, rates came down. He's like, really, how low? I was like, we can get it sub 7. And he's like, well, give me something 6.5 and we can do it. So I told him, look, if we just do this at 50%, which for
Mhm.
those that don't know, you can buy a property all cash and do what's called a delayed financing product. It's
Mhm.
structured just like a purchase, so you don't get the loan level pricing adjustment like a
Yep.
cash out loan. Okay.
Yep.
We kept him at 50% because obviously this client has a lot of cash. So getting all of
Clearly.
it back wasn't that important, but getting 50%, we
Yeah.
paid a 1.5 at 6.25. He's got 780 credit, a lot in reserves, but it was wild to have him sign something at 6.25.
That's amazing. At the end of the day, folks, Convoy Home Loans is here each and every week. Because they're bringing value, they bring a set of knowledge, but they're helping people in the community. You need to be reaching out to them to see if they can help you, talk about your deal, your specifics. And if you have an FHA or VA loan and you're getting beat up by one of these big clients, overhead marketing, get a competitive bid. I think you'll be surprised. Where do they go?
Go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from ORAT.
You got to say you came from ORAT. So one of these two fine gentlemen take care of you. Else you go with everybody else. You don't want to do that. Get one of these two guys. Later.